All right, everyone. Hello. My name is Pietro. For the one of you that don't know me, because maybe you are new to the channel, I am Italian. I was born in Italy in 1995 in a small town. It's in the northern part. It's in the town. It's called Mantova, and it's basically a rural town, I would say, placed in the middle of the Pianura Padana, which is the main plain of Italy. And its population is about 50,000 people. I spent basically most of my life there. I studied elementary school there and also high school. After high school, I decided to move to Bologna, which is a city 1 hour away from Mantova, and it's famous in Italy because it has one of the oldest university in Europe, actually. And after 3 years, I decided that what I was studying was not for me, so I moved to another city. This one is bigger and it's close to Milan, actually. It's called Brescia, and I basically stayed in Brescia. I lived in Brescia for 7 years. I graduated in March 2024 in management engineering, and I decided maybe in the middle of 2023 or 2022 to move out of Italy. And in this video, I wanted to actually present you a, would say, realistic, actually my opinion on my experience on my life in Italy. And I will try to present you facts about why I moved out of Italy and what is the current Italian situation, because I see online a lot of Americans and Canadians in premise that they would like to move to Italy, and when they know that I'm from Italy, they are all surprised by me moving to Canada because there's this conception that Italy is this amazing place, and it's basically an open museum, right? Like you can just, after you're done your daily shift, you go out and drink Aperol with your colleagues and friends, and then you party until 3 a.m. So I would like to give my 2 cents on this. The first thing that I would like to talk about Italy is its economy. Italy has been an industrialist country since the creation of the Republic, 1946. And it has grown at a very rapid pace until the 80s, but starting from 1980s, its economy started to lag behind. You have to understand that for the past 30 years, salaries didn't increase. They stayed flat, basically. You would have, if in 1991 you would have made 30,000 euros, you would have made less in 2026 today, which is kind of sad. This comes from the fact that productivity in Italy has been flat, if not decreasing, for the past 30 years, unfortunately, and salaries are one of the first indicator of this incredible crisis. It's not an innovative economy, unfortunately. You won't see innovation in Italy. Most of the industrial sectors in Italy are still in manufacturing, for example, and manufacturing stuff like they would do in the 80s or 90s. There is no innovation in the terms of AI, robotics, and especially in the southern part of Italy. This discrepancy in salary, I know that for someone that is not used to this, is actually pretty high. You have to understand that in Germany, for example, the median yearly income is around 54,000 euro, while in Italy is around 29,000. The median. So the median is actually a very good way to understand a salary, like, because the average includes also the very high salaries, right? While the medians, it's the median which is in the middle of the distribution of incomes, right? So the Netherlands, for example, is around 43,000 euros. France is actually closer to us and is around 35,000 euros. In terms of other economies, because I know that this video could be watched by Canadians and also Americans, if we actually take the parity purchase power, which is a measure that indicates, because you cannot compare euros, for example, with Canadian dollars or US, because euros you buy different services than Canadians in Canada, right? Because you have a lot of public welfare, and that it has to be included in this confrontation. So basically, Italy, if we want to use the US dollar, in Italy the median salary is around 51,000 US dollar, the median, adjusted for inflation and for parity purchase power, while in US is 83,000. In Canada, it's around 64,000 US dollars. So as you can see, there's already a huge disparity between salaries. Even though Italy is part of one of the advanced, it's considered one of the advanced countries out there because it's part of the G7, right? It has one of the lowest, I think it has actually the lowest median income inside the G7. And unfortunately, as I said, this trend has been basically, it has remained constant for the past 30 years. So for the past 30 years, you always had the same income. No matter what you do, no matter even if you grow, it's very hard for you to get promoted to a different role. You can get stuck for the same roles for years and with the same salary. And you realize this if you start working in any company in Italy. You'd realize how backwards some companies are. And I've been working here in Canada for the past 2 years, and I've been using tools, basic tools that for maybe Americans and Canadians are basic, like Excel. But in Italy, you have to understand that this is also the exception. Like, people they don't know how to use the computer most of the time, and they don't know how to use the software in it, like Excel, and they have a very basic comprehension of Excels, and even to send an email, like even people that comes out of school, like, this is crazy, but that's the reality of it. Connected to this, to the lower salary, it's the taxation and the social welfare, which I would call the welfare trap. So basically, Italy has one of the highest taxes in percentage of GDP in the entire European Union. And I think inside the OECD, like Union of Country, right? Its percentages of taxes on GDP is around 43%. So for every 100 euros that are exchanged in the economy, the state takes 43 euros out of it, right? That is super high. You have to realize that I'm not against taxation. Like, I would want the state to provide very good services. And if you are an efficient state, if you are very efficient and productive, you would want all of this money that are taken out of the economy, of the private market, to be used efficiently, right? So you would say, oh, well, 43% of taxes on average, so you will get incredible public services. No, it's not like that. And this is why I'm mentioning it, because the other two countries that have the highest percentages of taxes on GDP are the Netherlands and Denmark, and their public services, I think, are 10 times better than Italy. So you are just paying an enormous amount of taxes on your salary, and you have to add also to that if you own investments, like, for example, I don't know, you have stocks or something like that, first of all, you would get taxed 26% no matter what. There is no brackets in the taxation for the investments, right? And I don't understand why, because here in Canada, for example, you have, like, your income is taxed in bracket as your investments, right? Because there's this idea that people who makes less money will be taxed less, Well, in Italy, everyone gets taxed at 26%. If I have $5 million in investment, or if I have 5,000 euros, it's the same. You're going to get taxed 26%, and the only way to reduce this is to invest in Italian bonds or European bonds. So you get taxed 12.5% on that, which this is a way for the Italian government to basically incentivize people on the debt, basically, because Europe is one of the highest. Italy has one of the highest debts in the European Union. Actually, I think it's the first. We were below the Greece until last year, and this year we actually became first. So, and add to this, you have to pay 33% of your salary in pension deductions, right? There is no way for anyone to pay less than this. And this is crazy. If you consider that here in Canada, for example, the pension that you get is minimal, but you have to pay 3.3% on your salary as pension deductions, right? And you get, I don't know, 10,000 Canadian dollars per year, but you know that you have to save. So Canada, for example, really values your choices as individuals. So if you want to invest those money in a house and you want to buy a house, that will be your retirement. If you want to invest those money in stocks, that will be your retirement. In Italy, you cannot do that because the state takes a huge chunk out of your gross income. And basically that chunk goes to, it is used to pay out the current pensions. So the system in Italy is a pay-as-you-go system. There is no capitalization on your capital. It's only used to pay out the current pension. These the pension contributions are so high because back in 1980s, 1970s, the political class decided that people could become pensioners even if they had 20 years of like contributions to their pension, right? So that create an entire like hole in the pension system. So basically now we are paying for people that went to pension, that they became pensioner when they were 40 years old, 45, and that's crazy. And on top of that, you will receive a very low pension. If I would stay in Italy, if I would work for 45 years in Italy, my pension would be 60 to 55% my last salary. So let's say that I would make like 2,000 euros as my last salary. That means that I would retire with 1,000 or 12,000 basically euros a month. And this is crazy because you can get much more. You can get a higher pension if you would invest those money in the stock market and let it capitalize basically. The Italian state doesn't allow that because they have to pay out the pensions to people that became pensioners when they were 45. That is crazy to me. And to that, you have to add to that, it's something that I already mentioned, that Italy has the highest debt to GDP ratio in the entire European Union. It's around 150%. And the governments in the past forever kept on and keeps on making deficit in the range of 3-4% per year. So that is huge. The state, they are unable to just use the income from the taxation, even if it's so high, to just finance the whole system, right? So what you have to get from this is that you're gonna pay a ton of taxes in everything. I just mentioned the most famous one, the one on salary, the one on your personal salary, which is the income tax, the pension deductions, but everything will be taxed. Like the gas at the gas station will be taxed, and you're gonna pay basically 50% of what you pay, I think more actually, is taxes. You're gonna pay a lot of taxes on your electricity bill. You're gonna pay a lot of taxes on your heating bill, on your trash bill, like the just the just the recycling fee and stuff. And whenever you have to interact with the public administration, you will have to pay taxes for some type of services. If you need some documents, for example, you have to buy this stamp, and this stamp varies, the cost of the stamp varies based on the service that you require. So not only you pay like 43% on your salary, but the states also require you to pay when you have to when you have to request some type of services to the public administration. And also consider this, and this will be the last point for this part of the video. You will pay 50% in taxes, in income taxes, in your salary if you make more than 50,000 euros per year, which for the European standard, if you consider again that Germany, the median income is around 54,000 euros. If that would be the salary in Italy, you would pay 50% above the 50,000 euros. In Canada, you pay the maximum bracket, tax bracket is 33%, and you pay that above, I think, 250,000 Canadian dollars. So this is the difference. Like the image that you have to create in your mind out of everything that I said to you is that Italy is a poor country, and since it's a poor country, it's becoming a poor country, the state has to extract more and more resources out of the GDP because the GDP is not growing and people demand more and more services, right? So the taxation will increase, basically. Connected to the last two topics is the fact that Italy is, I would say, a socialist country. If you go to Italy, no one would say that because they don't realize how much the state actually owns part of the economy, which is, again, if we take different type of statistics, like taxes, for example, for the OECD statistics, and I will leave a graph about this. The taxes counts as 53% of GDP, right? You then have to add to that the state owns or is partially owner of a lot of companies in Europe. Like, for example, the postal service is basically owned by the state. There are manufacturing company, there are energy companies, and a lot of other companies that are just owned by the state, like telecommunication companies are owned by the state. So actually the imprint, the end of the state of the economy, I would say, is more than 50%. I think it's closer to 65% to 60. I read a research about this, and the extent of the end of the state, because also banks are partially controlled by the state in some case. We had an airline controlled by the state. We had all the public, basically all the public transports are owned by the states. So everything is owned by the state, and there's very to none space for the private market to develop. And this is also, in my opinion, why Italy lacks innovation. The Italian government is known to heavily subsidize companies in Italy, and they don't subsidize most of the time efficient and productive companies. Because if you think about how the socialist states work, is that it's like the private market. You don't know before what is going to be a good investment, right? So you will keep on foraging and subsidizing companies. And Italy has been doing this for the past 30 to 40 years, actually forever. And they've been subsidizing unproductive companies that basically gives very low salaries, right? Because productivity is linked to higher salaries. So basically, we are subsidizing poverty in Italy, and this is very sad if you consider this. And not everyone is aware of this in Italy. Most of the population is unaware of this, not because I think that they may be interested, but the thing is that all the journalism are not really interested in divulging this type of informations. And connected to this, I would say it's on the same page. Italy has this incredible talent of not being able to spend public money, public resources. For the past 5 years after COVID, all Europe, started this program, this refinancing program called Next Generation EU. So European leaders decided that back in 2020, after COVID, Europe needed to be saved, and I understand why. I'm not sure saved from what, maybe save it from itself, I don't know. And they decided to start this program with about 600 billion euros in funding. Some of them were loans, some of them were just funds that you just use it and you don't return it. Italy was the first recipient in terms of amount that Italy received. And I think we received amount close to 200 billion euros. For the past 5 years, Italy has received this 200 billion of euros. It has developed its own policy on renewing houses. And renewing, I mean, increase their energy efficiency rating. So we basically, politicians decided that if you started renewing your house, you would get 100%, 110% back. So you would get more back than what you actually spent. That created a hole in the public budget of around 150 billion euros. With that, we only were able to renovate around 5% or less of the public houses. That measure was said that it would bring in immense increase in productivity. Of course it didn't, because construction is a very low productivity sector. Then we gave a lot of money, around 80 billion euros, for the gas increase. For the gas price increase in the arc, like in a time frame that spanned 3 years. So overall, we spent 500 billion euros, and we didn't grow. Spain grew more than us, and actually they were very wise, because they didn't even take all the money that the European Union gave them. Everyone else spent less than us, and everyone else grew more than us, and they were able actually to reduce their public debt. So this is just a very simple image, an example on how Italy spends public money. And this is, I would say that the socialist state in Italy is more similar to the old USSR than the northern country of Europe. And you also have to understand that if you want to start your company in Italy, because you can, it's like it should be a free market economy, right? So you should be able to start your company in Italy. It's so hard to start a company in Italy. First of all, the timings. Like if you want to start your company, you have to send an email to the basically Italian IRS, or the revenue agency in Italy, and it will take them 2 weeks to reply to your email. And after that, you will have to start creating your company, and you have to pay taxes for that. After you started a company, you will have to hire someone. Everyone in Italy hires someone to do your taxes. You cannot do your taxes on your own. Even if you own a sole proprietorship company, you have to hire this person, which is called commercialista. And commercialisti usually are people that just are up to date to everything that's happening taxation wise. So you have to pay someone. Usually you have to pay them around, the cheapest one that I've known was paid 1,000 euros per year. But the more income you have, the more your company generates income, the more you have to pay them, of course. And after that, if you want to, I don't know, maybe you hire someone that doesn't do the job, it doesn't work, like, I don't know, maybe they are not good at what they're doing, you cannot fire them. We had a reform on the job market in 2016. Before that, it was impossible. You could not fire someone from job. Like, it was a law, basically. In Italy, you were entitled to have a job and you could not be fired out of it. And employers were offering money to people to resign. That was the reality. After 2016, you can fire someone, but it's super hard because you can appeal this. You can go in front of a judge. And most of the time, even I heard of cases, I know that this is a lot, this is very anecdotal, but I heard of cases of people that were not even showing up to work, or they were stealing on the workplace. They were bullying other colleagues. They were fired for this, and the judge sentenced the company to hire them back and pay what they didn't pay him in the time that he was fired. So this is kind of the reality. And on top of that, you will have to pay a lot of taxes on your company income, which is fixed, is 21%. There are no brackets. You pay always 21%. And so most of the people, they don't start companies. I was very surprised coming to Canada on how many small companies are here. And this is not possible in Italy. This is also why there's no innovation, right? Because if you even want to start a startup, Italy has one of the lowest capex in the whole European Union, because capital just don't flow to Italy, because it's so complicated to just, I don't know, hire someone and pay them a good wage. If you want to pay 30,000 euros, if you want to pay someone 30,000 euros a year, their cost to you as a company owner will be around 90,000 euros. So it's 3 times, because you will have to pay a lot of taxes, there's a lot of bureaucracy behind hiring someone. So this is the reality, unfortunately, of the situation. We are one of the top 3 countries in Italy for the cost of labor. Cost of labor is so high because basically it costs you 3 times to hire someone compared to what you pay them. Closing this chapter, unfortunately, this is the reality of the situation in Italy. You don't get as many services from the private market as you get in Canada or US. Don't expect Amazon to have the latest product. They won't have it. You don't expect to find businesses that provide you the latest technological services in Italy. You won't find any. There are just not as many services as there are in Canada or in US, because everything, it doesn't make sense even to start a business. It's so hard to find. I don't know, like maybe in Canada, for example, you can find someone that will come and clean your front yard in winter from the snow and stuff like that. You won't find that in Italy. No one would do that because it's inconvenient. You could find people, I don't know, in Canada it's so funny because you can find people washing mattresses, like with the special tools. You won't find that in Italy. These are very silly examples, I know, but you have to come with the mentality that you have to do a lot of stuff on your own, because since it's so hard to start a business, people just won't offer services as they offer them in US or Canada. Moving on to another chapter of this video is the democracy in Italy. The political situation, the political climate in Italy has been unstable since the Republic was created back in 1946, because we decided that after Second World War, Italy was a kingdom, right? We had a king. We decided we don't want a king anymore. We want a republic. So Republic was created in 1946. We have voted in political elections 20 times since 1946. And in the same years, in the same time frame, we had 68 different governments. 68. It's very common for a government in Italy to not last the course, to just end after 2 or 3 years. And this creates a climate in which it's impossible for any government to make structural reforms, because there's no incentive, first of all. for them to make reforms, because they know for sure that they won't last the course. And mind that Italy is a parliamentary republic, so we vote for the parliament, and parliament elects the governments, right? And the parliament has a lot of power. They can move for a for a vote of confidence in the government, and usually government fails this, and they have to go through the president of the republic to create and form a new government, and he will choose the ministers, and the government will appear in front of the parliament, and the parliament will vote confidence to that government or not. So this basically created a lot of instability, especially in the 70s or 80s. We had several governments that failed the confidence vote at the first parliament seat. So you had to go through this process of going to the president of the republic. Is called consultazioni. And this is crazy, just wasted time. So if you think about this, it just you cannot have a 10-year plan for industrialization, or 20 years plan in the energy sector, just because there are no incentives to government to do so, because government just lasts, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Since this is impossible, like structurally formal impossible, governments behave like Argentina's governments. We start giving money, like helicopter money, to everyone in terms of bonuses, because people want to get reelected, and the only way for them to stay in power is through giving out money to the public. And this has been going on for the past 20 years, I think, under some form of subsidies or bonuses to some type of specific elites or population clusters, I would say. We had, back in 2016, bonuses for people that were employed, and we gave them 80 euros in their salary check. They're still receiving them. They won't change anything, because 80 euros per year, it's around 800 euros. Sorry, 80 euros per month is around 800 euros per year. And if you want to change your washing machine, you get a bonus. If you want to change your windows, you get a bonus. If you want to change your doors, you get a bonus out of that, and so on and so forth. If you think about the inefficiency of taxing people to their death and then redistributing the resources based on ideology, because why would you give someone money if they replace their dishwasher or washing machine? There's no sense. 1 year we had bonuses if you buy the electric scooters, or if you change the mosquito nets. I know it's crazy, but it's something that really happened. And this is just helicopter money. Like, you're not, for example, building roads, you're not building new infrastructures, you're not improving internet connection, you're not doing what a government is supposed to do. Improve the citizen's life by improving the quality of the services. And this is also related to the fact that the type of solution that have been proposed for the past 20 years are always the same, because there are always the same people in parliament. They always get elected. There are the same personalities. So basically the solution that have been proposed for the past 20 years are just the same, which is, we need to subsidize the touristic sector, because the tourism is the bloodline of Italy, when it's not. The touristic sector has intrinsically a low productivity to it. So if more people are working in the touristic sector, the productivity of the country will decrease, and with it, the salaries. This is economic 101, but politicians, and Italians in primis, don't understand this. They really think that tourism is the bloodline, the thing that brings money to Italy, which is not, unfortunately. And closing this chapter, I think that talking about corruption and the lobbyism that's going on in Italy is a must. Italy is a corrupt country. The state is heavily centralized. Everything happens in Rome. Rome has always been the center of the corruption. We had these huge trials back in the 90s or 80s because people discovered, they woke up one night and they discovered, oh my God, everyone is corrupted. We had governments in the 80s that had to resign because they were all receiving money from lobbies or other parties in Italy. That was a huge scandal, and the situation didn't improve today. And I'm pretty certain of it because we're not talking about it anymore. And when you don't talk about it, to me, it feels that people just, you know, lost trust in this process. And lobbyists play a huge role in the Italian democracy. We have different type of lobbyists. We have the taxi drivers back in, I think it was 2016, 2015, they were able to push the government to ban Uber. So you don't have fair competition right now. The taxi service in Italy are one of the most expensive that you can find in Europe because the government decided that only, I don't know, 30,000 people in all Italy have the right to exercise their taxi skills. So it's called licensing, right? They only give, maybe it's not 30,000, I think it's more, but you create a bottleneck on the side of how many drivers can be taxi drivers. So these increase prices. And also another very fun example are the beach owners. They were able, basically for the past 40 years, to push the government to allow them to own beaches which are public goods. Like in Italy, like all the seasides and stuff are public goods, and they should renew contracts every year. Or usually what you do is that you sign a contract for 20 years saying I'm going to manage this for 20 years, and after that the state should start a type of public hearing calling everyone that wants to manage that seaside or that beach, and basically it's they will assign it to the highest bidders, right? So I'm gonna pay you, the state, 100,000 euros per year for me to be able to manage that. And we said no, we're not going to do that. You're going to own basically this piece of public land, and this basically reflects in the fact that when you go to, I don't know, a sea location, for example Rimini or the southern part, Salerno, for example, and all this part, you're gonna spend a lot of money in paying in just daily fees for this. Maybe it's more than 50 euros for 2 sunbeds. So it's crazy. And I don't want to add any other examples because it's all like this. The fifth chapter, it's something that it's also very important, which is about the infrastructures in Italy. Infrastructures are crumbling. No one cares about the public goods, especially in the southern part of Europe. You will see this different if you go to Milan, and then if you go to Sicily, for example, you would think to be in a different country because the level of maintenance in the southern part of Italy is not existent. There's just no maintenance. People are paid to do maintenance, but they don't do it. There's no one that checks that they do it. And again, you pay a lot of taxes, and you won't get excellent hospitals, you won't get excellent public libraries, you won't get excellent public gyms or swimming pool, you won't get excellent highway. You have to pay for highway in Italy. Even though you pay this much taxes, you will have to pay tolls for in a highway if you want to access it, and it's not cheap. Only provincial roads and local roads are free, but usually they are not well maintained. So you will find plot holes everywhere, and that will damage your car, especially in winter. and it's gonna be a mess. This is like, I was very surprised here in Canada on how well public libraries are maintained, and the type and the amount of services that they offer. They have 3D printers here. You can play PS5, you can play video games, you can just rent a podcast studio, or you can record music in it, you can learn how to knit, you can play, I don't know, chess, you can of course rent books, you can rent movies, but all these services are not present in Italy. And libraries are just library. You go there and you rent a book, and that's it. And if you want to take high-speed train, you can. I think that is one of the good part of Italy. Unfortunately, it will be often late, and the amount, like, and usually they could be 1 hour late. Like if you can go from, like, for example, Naples to Milan, and it's, I would say, fast. It's not faster, but it's more convenient than taking a plane, and usually it's not even cheaper, but it's more comfortable for sure. The thing is that you could be 1 hour late, unfortunately. And local trains are even worse. Like most of the local trains, they are cheap, but again, they are not very well maintained. Only recently, because I think that Trenitalia, which is the company that manages train in Italy, and it's a public company, but I think that the state actually withdrew out of Trenitalia, and they are actually improving quality right now. But overall, you will find a very low quality. People are not, like, people that works from Trenitalia, they will not help you. They don't care, they just don't care. And moving on to the 6th chapter of this video is the culture, the Italian culture, or I would call it gerontocracy, because Italy is not a place for young people, unfortunately, and it has been like this. I would say I always experienced this since I was born, basically. You have to understand that why I'm saying this, I'm also saying this about women. Unfortunately, I was very surprised coming to Canada in seeing women working blue collar job, like for example, the asphalt fixer or plumbers or something like that. In Italy, you won't see that, unfortunately, especially in the southern part of Italy. You would see a lot of women still caring for the house. They won't work. They will be unemployed, and they will basically be maintained by their husband. And this also lowers the family income, right? Because if you only have one component of your family working, this means that you will have to survive on one salary rather than two. This is not common in the northern part of Italy, but it's very common in the southern part of Italy. So why I'm saying this also for young people, because the culture is that older people are basically always right. They have this wisdom. The motto in Italy is like, well, we always have done these things like this, so why change, right? So this automatically gives power to the elder because no one is interested in innovation. No one wants to change in Italy. And the lifestyle of the past 30 years is the same lifestyles that you could have found in the 70s or 80s. And the elders are the one in charge most of the time, both in the political system and also both like in the private sector. A lot of companies are still managed by old people, so of course you won't see, and since it's hard to start a company, you won't see young people in charge of I don't know, innovative companies, right? And there's a lack of social progression that you have to add to this, and I think it's connected to the fact that Italy is a conservative country. You cannot go around it. It's just a conservative country. Gay marriage is not legal in Italy. You cannot even do a surrogate pregnancy. It's illegal. So all of this stuff, these are the most known, the most famous cases, and it's just really frustrating. It's just frustrating because you have an old culture that doesn't want to innovate, doesn't want to progress socially, and it's very frustrating for the young, because young are they were raised using internet, and I was raised watching American movies, American series, in which you could notice the progressivism in the American society, in the North American society, let's say that, and you don't see that in Italy, and it's so hard to create parties. There are parties made of young people, they just don't get the votes. Most of the electorate in Italy are pensioners, so they are elder, they are older people, and this basically just pushes things to stay the same, unfortunately. You also have to this the famous Italian campanilismo, which basically is parochialism. Italy really likes to compare itself to itself, not to other countries. If you, even politicians, that it's crazy to me, because you just, if I were the prime minister tomorrow, I probably wouldn't know how to manage a country. I would just copy what other successful country did in the past, which there are plenty of outside. But Italy is known for this like really short view of both for the private market, like since there's no innovation also, right? There is no really, like even in managing companies, most of the company managers of those, at their CEOs, they really have short views. They are not interested in the international market, which is how humanity decided to evolve in the past 20 years, to trade with everyone else and to innovate based on what my neighbors are doing. And basically this didn't happen in Italy. Everyone was still like, we have to do stuff, we have to behave like we lived in back in 1980s, basically. And you can see this as a tourist, right? Everyone is so attached to tradition in Italy. Everyone is so, we have to, I would, classical example, the only way for an Italian person to make parmesan is to follow strict rules that the state imposed, because otherwise it won't be called parmesan and you cannot sell it, because you would get fined if you sell something that gets closer to it, so you cannot innovate. There's this thing about parochialism and traditionalism that is basically halting any type of development in Italy. It's like the fixation on, oh my God, I'm building a house and I found a Roman wall of 2000 years old. You have to stop everything. You have to call the state authorities, that they will check and they will say, oh my God, this wall, it's like, it's worth, you cannot even estimate how much it's worth. So you have to preserve it. You have to change all your project, and you even have to stop building your house because you found 2000-year Roman walls. And you cannot do anything about it because it has to be preserved like it was built by the Roman. So this is very, very frustrating. Unfortunately, it's something that I find myself not being able, I don't have any more patience for it, because even if you go to a restaurant and you ask a very specific plate to be made on your preferences, they won't do it, because they say, oh no, we always cooked it like this, so you have to eat it like this or you just leave. So this is, every time, for example, even let's talk about build stuff in old cities that they haven't been changed for the past 50 years, because we decided as Italians that we cannot build tall, because our cities were built, I don't know, 3-4 floors top, and you cannot destroy that, which is like always the same. It always, this finds its way in the same thing, which is like traditions and parochialism. You have to preserve everything. You have to preserve the way you make milks in the morning. You have to preserve some drawings that were made back in the 1700s inside your house, because if you remove them, oh my God, everything will collapse. So, there are no compromise. It's a society that doesn't compromise with the reality of the world. They just pretend that everything has to stay like this, which is, on my opinion, very sad and limited, like extremely limited. This brings young Italians to just leave the country. We have the highest population living outside of Italy, expat, in the entire European Union. Currently, 6 million Italians live abroad, and the population is around 55 millions. So close to 10% of the population lives abroad, which is huge. It's like a huge amount. Just because, especially young people, if you can get paid 3 times as much in another country doing the same thing, why would you stay in Italy? Why would you invest your life in building? Why would you build your life in Italy? Why would you buy a house that costs 2 times as much and offer less than Germany and I don't know, UK, Ireland, Sweden? Why would you do that in the first place? And uh, others Italians don't understand this. I remember, maybe not today. I think that the sentiment has changed around young people immigrating. But I remember back 10 years ago, they were pointing fingers at Italians, young Italians that were leaving, and say that, oh, you don't care about your country, you're just leaving because you are careless and you don't really care. In reality, they were leaving because they couldn't find any opportunity in Italy and they had to survive like anyone else. This is and I am part of that generation that just decided to leave. Last year, 350,000 people, young people, left Italy. It's crazy because in Canada last year, 300,000 people immigrated to this country. And if you consider that Italy has the oldest population in the world, I think we are second to Japan. And by 2050 there will be, I think, 3 retirees from 1 worker. So we will have a crisis in the welfare state because you won't have enough workers. And consider also that most of the workers work for the state. So the people that don't work for the state are heavily taxed because they have to fund the pensions and the salaries of the one working for the public sector. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that has been ongoing for the past 20 years and that the political system has been unable to tackle or try to fix it, no matter what. And coming to actually the last 2 points. One, the seventh, the seventh point in this presentation is the South. As I mentioned already, Italy, as it has been said, that it has 2 speeds: the North and the South. The South is, I don't even have to describe. I don't know how to describe it. It's like going to a different country. You won't have public services available to you. Infrastructures are crumbling. Criminality is rampant. Mafia is everywhere. Even the culture feels, which is good, which is like, I think culture should be local and everyone should be incentivized to maintain their culture. But the culture there is extremely different from the northern culture. So on average, everyone in Italy expects the state to provide services. In the south, this is even more common. And everyone works under the table. Not everyone, but the majority of the people works under the table. Cost of living in the south is less. I think it's around 20 to 15% less to the northern part, but the salaries are even lower. And it's very hard to find high-paying job because the productive sector, the manufacturing industry is all in the northern part. Lombardia, Veneto, Piemonte, Emilia Romagna, these are the most productive provinces in Italy. So a lot of, back in the 60s, we had a wave of immigrants coming from the south because the south remained mostly agricultural till this day. And it's just, you just see cars in Naples being stripped to their very bones. You will find cars without wheels because they will steal them. You would find mafia getting a small shop to pay them a monthly fee to, and it's crazy. It's like it feels lawless. It feels the Far West. nature is amazing, she is amazing, but you won't get any service. It's like a third world country, unfortunately. And I'm gonna close this presentation talking about the European Union, because I am a strong supporter of the European Union. Unfortunately, most Italians are not. They think that with the introduction of euros, things got worse, but actually that started much earlier than the introduction of euro. Like Italy adopted the euro currency back in the 2000, and the Italian stagnation of the GDP started in 1990. So because if you see other countries in Europe that adopted euro, they gain a lot in GDP, a lot in productivity. Their salaries grew by a lot, by 30-40% compared to what the salaries in Italy did. And they were able to use the euro, because what the euro did was, you had one currency, we had one economical system in the entire European Union. Basically, you didn't pay any fees if you want to move goods between one state and the other. And these really lowered the costs of many goods, and also the taxes and the bureaucracy. And for us, Italy, you have to understand that Italy arrived in 1999 with a high public debt, and the interest that we were paying on that public debt was 8%, around 8 to 9%. Thanks to us adopting the euro basically lowered this interest rate, because the risk for Italy to default was basically lowered. So we were able to save a lot of money by basically paying only 2% of our debt. That is a huge saving. We decided to invest those money, as we did in the past 5 years, just helicopter money, just subsidizing sector that should be closed or industries that should be closed, and give bonuses all over like the place, unfortunately. Europe unfortunately, for the past 10 years, has moved to a more ideological path rather than pragmatical. We decided that we need a green revolution. We pushed for a ban in the internal combustion engine by 2030. That was cancelled, but you have to understand that companies moves on incentives, and when they do their 5 to 10 years production plans, they will stop making internal combustion engine cars. That raised the cost of cars, I don't know, by a lot, 20-30%. And today people are buying more used cars than new cars, because there's no, especially in Italy, there is no infrastructure for electric vehicles, and they are so expensive. So rather than, I'm not against it, I would have just left the market do its course, just leave it to the market. The level of emission in all the developed countries, all the Western world, has flattened out. Like, we had a peak in 1990s. Since then, we have been slowly declining, and we are spending so much money on renewable energies, which are good, but we are doing it in a very ideological way, just phasing out old technology without having a new technology to replace it. I mean, we have them, but they are costly still. We are phasing out nuclear, we are phasing out gas, we are phasing out coal, and people still need to heat their houses. The thing is that they are still able to heat them, but at 2 or 3 times the cost. And this is pushing companies away of Europe. Like, Germany is one of the, I don't know, example of this incredible ideological transition. They phased out their nuclear power. Nuclear should be the way to go if you want to have a huge renewable percentage of your energy, because nuclear provides a fixed amount, a constant amount, while renewable, as you may know, are very renewable, as you may know, are not constant. They oscillate, right? Because if you have no wind, there's no wind power. If you have no sun during the night, there's gonna be no energy provided by the photovoltaic, right? If you are going through a drought, you won't have hydroelectricity. So all these stuff that are very pragmatical, they were just, I don't know, erased and said, no, we have to just adopt all renewables. So the effect now is that we are having the global energy crisis, and our heating price and the gas prices, the fuel prices exploded more than US and Canada. Um, Everything was done in an ideological way, even with, for example, the directive on, it's called greenhouses. You have between now and 2050, all the houses in Europe will have to be of a certain energy class. And think about Italy as one of the first country in Europe with the oldest park of with the oldest amount of houses, because as you can see, like as you know, Italy is a very old country and our houses are super old. And to increase an energy class for like Italian homes or Italian infrastructure, we're gonna spend a lot of money and gain nothing back, because the savings that you'll get by improving your energy class will not cover the cost, unfortunately, especially if it's done not following market efficiency. I would want Europe to move to a federalist setting, but I don't want Europe to do this kind of reform. I want Europe to take care of the defense. I want Europe to take care of immigration, because immigration is also is playing a huge part on the downturn of immigration, because no one is managing it. I am pro-immigration, but immigration should be something that you do with laws, and you have to follow the rule of law. You have to set some system in place. You have to have some system in place to allow people to come legally. And I would really want something like Canada. The thing is that the one of the main cons in Canada is that there's no free market inside the union in Canada, while we have it in Europe. So I would really want to have that. I'm not really, I don't really have any hope for the future of Europe and for the future of Italy especially. I really think that we are on a path of slow decline, as we have been for the past 20 years. And I don't think that things will improve, but this is my opinion. Anyway, I think I told everything. I told you everything that I wanted to. I really hope that this was helpful, especially to people that are looking to move to Italy, or maybe if you want to, you just move out of Italy if you want to, I don't know, follow me, or if you found this interesting, just remember to subscribe and put a like to the video. I will be back to Italy soon, because I couldn't renew my visa in Canada. And I think that I won't be staying in Italy. I'll be going somewhere else around Europe, but I want to be back in Canada, that is for sure. So thanks again for watching the video till this very end, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.